Hello everyone. Today's story is based on the life of Amelia Earhart. I'm sure that you have all heard of her. In fact, we mentioned Amelia Earhart this week in our story, Rosie Revere Engineer. If you remember in that story, Rosie wanted to design aircrafts and helicopters and aeroplanes. And there was mention of Amelia Earhart in Rosie Revere Engineer. So we're going to have a look at the life of Amelia Earhart. It's quite a short story, so at the end I'm going to go into a little bit of a more detailed biography of her. There's a couple of pages at the back that I'm going to read to you, so if you want to listen on at the end, please do so. This book is from a series of books called Little People, Big Dreams. The author is Maria Isabel Sanchez Vergara, and illustrations are by Maria Diamantes. Enjoy. When Amelia was a little girl, she liked to imagine she could stretch her wings and fly like a bird. When she was older, she went to an air show. The plane soared into the sky, leaving Amelia on the ground. She wished she could go with them and see what they saw. She got a ride on an aeroplane and liked it so much she didn't want to ever come down again. So Amelia learned to fly. After months of practicing, she became the first woman to fly up to 14,000 feet. With a mechanic and a pilot, she was also the first woman to try and fly over the enormous Atlantic Ocean. As they set off, she waved at whales far beneath her. Great picture of Amelia flying over the Atlantic Ocean. After many hours, they reached land. The world looked so small. The houses and cars were like toys. Even though Amelia wasn't flying the plane, when they landed, she became famous. People around the world were inspired by her story. Amelia thought that every girl deserved to fly, so she founded a club with 98 other fearless pilots. A little later, she flew across the Atlantic Ocean all by herself. As her 40th birthday approached, Amelia decided she wanted one final challenge: to fly around the world. A brave navigator went with her. They flew for thousands of miles, over oceans and jungles, and over the savannah, where giraffes turned their heads in their trail. Some people said the journey was crazy. But Amelia wasn't afraid of living 1,000 adventures, so she flew on like a bird, further than anyone had ever gone before, never to return. Because Amelia always followed her own advice. If you want to do something, do it. You never know how far you could get. So the famous story of Amelia Earhart, who sadly, after that journey, never returned. So she may be best known for her numerous aviation records, but it is her legacy and unfaltering determination and her quest for equal treatment of women that really lives on today. So for any of you who want to listen on, we will just look at a little timeline of Amelia's life. She was born in 1897 and she disappeared in 1937. So can any of you do that sum there? What age was she when she disappeared? 1897 to 1937. Yes, she was 40 years old. And we have a few pictures of her here. This is Amelia when she was 7. Here she is, age 31. Here she is at age 35. And this was the last picture of her plane that anyone saw. So she was the most famous female pilot of the 20th century. She first became interested in planes after seeing an air show when she was nearly 20 years old. A little later, pilot Frank Hawes gave her a ride in a biplane. From that moment on, she said, "I knew I had to fly." Amelia took lessons and bought her first plane 6 months later. She used it to set a new women's record by flying up to 14,000 feet. She was the first woman to fly over the Atlantic, first with a mechanic and a pilot, and later by herself. In 1929, Amelia was the first president of the 99s. That was an organization that supported female pilots. In 1935, she became the first person to fly solo across the Pacific Ocean. But Amelia was always keen for a new challenge. In 1937, she decided to try and fly around the world, a total of 29,000 miles. On July 2nd, she was trying to reach Howe Island in the mid-Pacific when she reported that their gas was running low. Soon after, all communications from the plane stopped. There was a massive rescue attempt, but sadly Amelia and her plane had vanished. In 1938, a lighthouse was built on Howe Island in her memory, and today her bravery is celebrated around the world. And that's the story of Amelia Earhart, a very inspiring lady. I hope you all enjoyed the story. Bye.